and it is what it is, you guys. But I'm here, and as y'all can see, I'm in a different area of my apartment. I'm not in the closet. I'm just in another room. I was trying to show you guys this. Oh, it is doing correctly. We'll talk about that in a minute. But tonight we are going to be discussing making sacrifices for improvement. Y'all know me, I'm not necessarily, it's not so much about being big on self help, but there are things that you have to do with your life to make sure that the things that you want, you have to make calculated steps to get there. Not just going to fall through, in your lap just by you, just la 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 going about your everyday life. You have to make some calculated steps to do some things. And so we're going to discuss those today. Y'all know me, I have my notes, I have to make sure I don't forget anything. So the first thing we want to discuss is just improvement. So when we start talking about improving our lives and doing what's good for ourselves, we both want to, discuss both personal improvement and professional improvement. Okay. Unless you were born and your family won millions of dollars in the lottery. Just makes absolutely no sense. Your mind is having a hard time comprehending. And you just, you look at people and squint like, what? Sometimes you just got to turn around and walk off. There's no point in arguing with those types of people. So you have to guard your emotional health, preserve your peace. Next thing is your physical health. As we get older, our bodies start doing some things. And as I'm getting older, I'm starting to realize those things. So one thing we have to learn, and hopefully we'll learn earlier on in life, or the younger ones will learn early on in life, we have to be cognizant of what we're putting in our body, what we're eating. We can't eat all that fried foods, pizza and hamburgers and all that type of stuff all the time and still expect our skin to be clear, our digestive systems to flow the way they're supposed to do, and things of that nature. Exercise. When you exercise, you release some of that stress that travel on. I do get that. However, we got to learn to go past that. Yes, these things may have happened, but we got to learn to take that and let it become a building block and not a hindrance to hold us back. I'm not negating some things that people have gone through in life. Understand that. I get it. I get it. But instead of letting it hold you back and stifle you from moving and progressing and growing in life, use that as a stepping stone to say, hey, I'm still here. I went through these things, but I'm still here. Okay. That's what I mean by that. I'm not negating or downplaying anybody's psychological trauma that they have gone through. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is try to let that build you instead of continuing to break you down. Okay. Educational help. Pick up a book and read. I see so much in the news about how the schools aren't teaching our kids how to do this. The schools aren't teaching our kids how to do that. What role are you playing in making sure that yourself as well as your children and your family are educated on things? And when I say educated, I don't mean the narrative that we create to make things look, to match what we want them to be in order. Okay, make sure they don't need to go to college and they don't need to do Doesn't matter. You can just pick up a book. You can go on Amazon. You can go to the library. You can magazines, read. The best way to educate yourself is to just read. Now, there are specific things that if you're trying to do certain things, yes, you're going to need some additional training and understanding to do. But at the end of the day, if you really just pick up a book and read and read both sides, don't just read one side because every topic you read has a somebody for it and somebody against it. Read both, and then you can kind of see where the middle dynamic is. Okay. So, emotional health, physical health, psychological health, and what I call educational health are four components of having that healthy life all around. And so, how do you sacrifice things for improvement? So, I've come up with some things, and some of them may be interesting, but sacrifice misguided things in life. Have a reason, have a purpose. Set SMART goals. Remember, SMART is an acronym for the goal must be specific, measurable, attainable or achievable, realistic, and have a timeline or deadline applied to it. When you have a goal that you can sit down and map out like that, those are goals that you're probably going to achieve. Don't just say, I want to be a millionaire. But what are you going to do to be a millionaire? Being a millionaire is fine, but what are the SMART acronyms? What are those letters? How are you specifically going to become a millionaire? How are you going to measure your progress? Is this truly achievable and attainable? Is it realistic based on what you've done in the past? And what timeline have you given yourself to be a millionaire? Okay, understand what I'm saying? Sacrifice partying. Some party and sit back and talk about, I'm gonna be this one day. I'm gonna do this one. And and being out and trying to be seen and having to be everywhere. You don't always have to do that. Okay, you don't always have to do that. Sometimes being away from that keeps you safe. Sometimes you don't want to be certain places because things pop off. You need to be where you're safe. Set boundaries. Okay, sacrifice being used. Set boundaries. Sometimes you have to tell people no. Sometimes you want to say yes. And as you grow and mature, you'll learn the difference between the two. Sometimes you want to say yes to say, I need to try this. I want to do some things I've never done before. And sometimes you just say, yeah, it's a fear thing, and we'll talk about that in one in just a second. But sometimes you have to say yes. But sometimes you have to say no and stop letting people call you only when it benefits them. If the only time you hear from somebody is when they need money, they need a ride, they need you to listen to their problems, deal with them, all that type of stuff. You need to stop fooling with those type of people because they're withdrawing from your emotional bank and your psychological bank. But they're not depositing anything into it. If they're not calling you, asking you, hey, how you doing? They're not calling you, say, sis, you need me to come pick you up. Would you like to go hang out? Remember, you know, always the correct one. You have to learn to do additional research for yourself. Do it, like I said, always read the pros and cons and find that middle part. Okay. Always know and do your own research. Educate your mind. Stop just listening to people. The 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 worst mind, and for some, the best mind to control is one that is ignorant. Okay? And that's all I'm gonna say about that. Know your purpose. Know your purpose. Sacrifice wandering aimlessly through life. If you don't know what your purpose is and you are above 21 and definitely above 30, something is wrong. We are all on this earth. We have a goal or a purpose to fulfill. Whoever you pray to or sit down a branch, okay? Know who's what in your life and categorize them and keep them as such until they show you otherwise. Some are going to wander off, some are going to come, maybe come closer to you, but you have to know who people are in your life and whether or not they are good or bad for you, okay? And then stop playing hopscotch. Sacrifice playing hopscotch. Take calculated steps in most of everything that you do. Stop wandering through life hoping that something falls in your lap, wishing that something falls in your lap. They say if you say it, it'll come true. That is partially true, but what they say, dream without works is a wish. Okay. You have to do some things. You have to put in that work and do some things to make those things happen. Take calculated steps. Set smart goals. That is the first step to taking a calculated step is to set smart goals for your life. Okay. And then sacrifice fear. Sometimes you just got to jump in there and say, I am afraid, but I am going to do this. And remember back when we were talking about knowing we can't just say and just let it be. We have to put in that work, set those goals, and do the things that we need to do to make sure that our life turns out the way that we want it based on our purpose. Everybody has a purpose, and we need to know what our purpose are, what our purposes are, and go for it. Okay, so those are some things that when you're talking about making sacrifices for improvement, those are things that when you do them, you are not going to regret it. Is it easy? No. But anything worth having is hard and is worth working for. Okay. Fear either stifles you or makes you stronger. Don't let it hold you back and be afraid to take a step. Sometimes you're going to take a step forward and take two steps back. Sometimes you're going to take a step forward and go lateral. It happens. That road is not a straight line. It's squiggly. It's ebbs and flows and valleys and sometimes